Hi, this is the Change and Grow Wellness Show, the show for you, the busy professional who wants to live a healthier, happier life with increased energy and productivity. This show is powered by the amazing men and women of Power Positive program. So today we are talking about how we communicate. And we've got Tracey Baum, who is a Master NLP Practitioner, business coach, and founder of Tracey Baum Coaching. She works with SME businesses who want to take their business to the next level. Welcome, Tracey.
Thank you for having me.
Good, Tracey. So today we're talking about communication, and although this is not really directed to health and wellness, it is related because communication affects everything that you do. So Tracey, tell us a little bit about how you work with your clients around communication.
Like you said, Jackie, how we communicate is everything that we do. We're always communicating something to someone, whether we're aware of it or not. Coined a phrase called facial leakage, that you're never quite sure what your face is doing, but other people are still reading it. And it's kind of be aware of that. So I did an exercise once in a training class, and we asked someone to tell everybody or just show an emotion, and we asked them to do surprised, and then we didn't tell the others what was going on. And they had to guess just from the face what expression she was trying to do. And we had angry and aggressive and unhappy and sad. So it's really important to remember what it is that you are trying to communicate and doing it. We know that going back to kind of, when we were still crawling on our tummies, and before we all stood up and had opposable thumbs, which kind of got really useful, that we will put people into various categories, whether we see them as a threat, whether we see them as our tribe, whether we see them as somebody as a future mate, or whether or not they're not anything we have to be aware of, and we can be completely indifferent to them and let them go. For billions of years, and even since evolution, and we carry on doing it, we have these signals that unconsciously we take on board, and we read them. These days we call them body language. But we're always communicating something, and it's how you read that. And if you want to make an effect on anybody, personally, professionally, and in your business, understanding how we use those signals will benefit absolutely everybody.
Brilliant. So Tracey, like you said, there's so many different ways to communicate, and there's the whole thing about body language. There's the whole thing about gestures, using your hands like I'm doing right now, although people can't see me as they're listeners on the podcast. So tell us a bit about, using your communication effectively to get across your message.
So that's a really good question, actually. So the first thing is always remember, if you want someone to listen to you, because remember, only 7% of what we say is how we communicate. The other 93% is our body language and our voice tonality. So if you want someone to pay attention to the actual 7% of what you're saying, you've got to get them on board. So start with a smile. Whoever you're meeting, whoever you're going out with, the first signal, the universal signal for friend, and I have not got a threat, is a smile. With your eyes. So you kind of got to smile, make sure your eyes are creasing up, and if you raise your eyebrow a little bit, that's even better. And you've got to hold that pose for 3 seconds, which kind of sounds like a lot, but it isn't. So it's kind of like a smile with your eyes, with the eyebrow, and hold. And what you'll find is that people will start, people start doing this. They're doing this all over the place. I was doing it this morning. And people were just like raising eyebrows. It was quite funny. But what you'll find when you start doing that is that people, even if you don't know them, they'll smile back. If you smile first, they'll smile back. You'll notice that a lot of people on the TV have all been taught how to stand and how to use their arms, because if you start waving your hands around a lot, what tends to happen is that people's eye will follow where your hands go. So if you're waving your hands a lot, they'll get distracted by your hands, and they won't start listening to the 7% of what you want them to hear. So people who cover over their tummies and hide things, or put their hands behind their back, are prehistoric instincts still come back in. We don't know what's in your hands. You could have an arrow, you could have a sledgehammer, you could have a gun, you could be here to spear, you could be here to hurt me. So if I can't see what your hands are doing. So don't put them in your pockets, don't put them behind your back. Keep them nice and open, but don't wave them around too much because that's distracting. But if we cover over our tummy, because that's what happened when we learned to stop crawling and standing up, our soft and vulnerable bits got exposed. So when we feel anxious or worried or scared or at risk, we tend to want to cover that area. By uncovering that area and showing everybody that you're open with your lovely smile, with your eyes and your eyebrow and holding it for 3 seconds, gives everybody the message that whoever it is that you're with, that you are a friend, that you are not a threat, and that they can trust you. And basically just give everybody a try. Just go out and try it. Just smile, use your eyes, eyebrow, hold for 3 seconds and see. People will nod at you and smile at you and think they know you and go, hi, and you're walking on going, hi.
I think I can do the smiling bit. I don't know about your eyebrow.
But we do it naturally without actually thinking about it.
Okay.
When we smile with our proper smile, because if we don't smile with our eyes and we just smile with our mouth, then we're just grimacing. And that becomes along that we are then a threat. Yeah. So if you don't smile with our eyes, when you naturally smile with your eyes, your eyebrows go up because you're normally talking and your eyebrows are more expressive than we think they are. Yeah. So it's the smile, the eyes, the eyebrow flash, the hold for 3 seconds. The 3 seconds is quite important because that gives the time for us to get the message across and the message to be received.
Yeah. Brilliant. So how many types of communication are there? Because, you can look up and you can start investigating and you can, like, some say 4, some say 5. What would you say?
That's a really hard question to answer because it depends on how you're defining communication. So what you wear is a way of communicating. It communicates your style. It communicates maybe your cultural inheritance, what you prefer, what colours you like or don't like. Yeah. Whole trends of cultures have developed on a clothing style. Yeah. So that's one way of communicating. You communicate by your beliefs. So how you communicate. So we have face-to-face meetings. Now we have online meetings. We have talking. We have body language. We have dance and mime and arts. So there's probably more than about 10 different ways that we can communicate depending on what our interests are and how bold we want to be.
Brilliant. Yeah, see, I told you it's so vast on the communication, because you've said like at least 2 or 3, well, actually 5 more. 5 more. 5 more than you actually think about. So, actually thinking about your clothing as being a way of communication is a different way to think about it as well. Do you know what I mean? And in terms of your beliefs. So, that's just amazing. So when you go into a, office environment or, work with a small business, what are the types of things you do with them around communication? Because I know you talked about one, game that you did around communication, but tell us a little bit more about, and what shifts for people. That's kind of a big question, isn't it?
So usually when I'm going into a business or even working with an individual or a small business, I'm looking at how they're interacting. So who's making eye contact, which is another important thing for your communication. Not just a smile, but maintaining that level of eye contact. Yeah. Who's hiding? Who's making themselves small? Especially when people are doing presentations, it's like, do you stand tall with your head back and your shoulders up and your head back, or do you try and shrivel down and make yourself smaller? Who's taking the lead? Who should be taking the lead, and who is actually taking the lead? If they've got a team of people, how does that team interact? How are they communicating? Is communication open? Is it regularly there are team meetings where people are encouraged to speak out? Or are they encouraged to send by an email and you kind of read it or don't read it? How is that working? And then looking at reviewing it. What effect or what outcome does that give them to what outcome is it that they want? So if they want to have motivated people, happy staff, managers communicating well, is that what they're getting? And you can look at how body language interacts, how that conversation goes down, who pays attention to who, who's when someone talks, who's writing. And not actually interacting with that meeting or just doodling, because obviously they've switched off. So there's something going on. So it's about those relationships, intercommunication relationships, heading from all the way down from MDs and CEOs down to team leaders and down to the actual employees. Because you can tell who's respecting who, who's worried, who's stressed, who's overwhelmed, just by looking. And then we go in and say, give them some feedback. This is what I've noticed. What is it that you'd like to do with that? And then we move forward.
Okay. And so what are some of the things that you've had to, build into those teams, to bring about those changes when you've identified them?
Majority of the time, it is improved communication, understanding, the mixed messages or the messages that people, we said, you cannot not communicate. You're communicating something all the time, but how to understand that. So who is struggling in your team? Who might be having something going on outside of work and bringing it in that is struggling on that particular day, and then how can you help them? It might be that a manager is a really good manager and knows their job, but might not be so good on the communication side and talking and managing people. There is a disparity I have come across of managers being good at what they do in the sense that they know the job, but they're not always great about managing people. And once they can understand how they can have different conversations using that 7% of written of actual verbal communication, how they can use that more effectively by changing their language use and actively listening and then feeding that back, gives them a different response. And then when you get something different, you can then review it as in, again, back to, is that what you want? And if it isn't what you want, let's try something different. And if it is what you want, carry on, keep going, tick all the boxes. You're doing fine.
So it's a vast thing to be going into a service or business and actually making some changes. Have you come up with any resistance from like either employees or managers, vice versa, anything like that, whilst you've been doing these reviews?
Well, the short answer to that one is yes, of course, because there's always a change. And when you're bringing in a different, there's always a change. And as human beings, we don't like change. We like things exactly the way they were, which is why this kind of whole CV-19 situation is causing so much anxiety, because it's a change that is enforced on us and we don't like. So yes, but it's using the skill you have as a coach to go in and hitting their pain points. What is it that your business or you are struggling with? What would you like to have out of it? And then when you can hit into and listen to that and acknowledge that that's an issue, but that hasn't got to be like that. There is a different way of doing it. And if we tried doing this, what do you think? You tend to get less resistance because they don't feel it's being put on them. You're bringing them with you, and that's the key. I personally believe a good coach is being able to bring their clients with them along on the path, not just dragging them behind, kicking and screaming and punching and shouting and going, don't make me.
Of course. So what would you say are the benefits of having a business coach, especially for a small business?
So a coach, a business coach, an accountability coach, a mindset coach, a health coach, we all kind of work in the same way, which is we don't give advice, we don't judge people, we are objective. We never give, I never tell anybody anything they don't already know, but it might be something that we're looking at in a different way, through different eyes, and thinking outside the box a little bit. And then when we start hitting into where would you like to be and why aren't you there, then we can start looking more deeply at what those issues actually are, and then what that person or that business can do about it. And then we review it and we keep that accountability. Me personally, we kind of make up a little agenda. This will be what the tasks that you're going to do for till the next session, and these are the tasks that I'm going to do. So I'll always take something away for myself, and it might just be looking up a website or giving them a resource, or coming in and just looking at some videos of their meetings and seeing how they're already doing it. But I will always take something away as well as them, because it's a joint partnership. We're not in charge. We're not the experts. We are just good at being able to think outside the box.
Yeah, brilliant. So Tracey, tell us what is your final thoughts around, how we communicate?
So remember, communication is a two-way process. You're communicating something to someone or to a group, and they are communicating back to you. And if you can understand and pay attention to who it is you're speaking to, so you are making that eye contact, you are being nice, open body language, you're not waving your hands around. If you need to point to anything, use a pointer, and at the right time, get them to pay attention to it and then bring them back. Make sure that you use your voice tone in a way that is going to, if you want them to be on side and passionate, be passionate and energetic in your voice. Raise that voice tonality so that you're bringing them with you. If you end up talking in a monotone that's really dull and boring and really quick and nobody really cares what you're saying, they're not going to bother listening to you.
Yeah, sure.
So make them pay attention to that 7%. If you're doing verbal communication, if you want to dress, make sure the way you're communicating through your dress is appropriate for that environment. It's all great to be a punk rocker and have, tattoos and piercings and loads of bright pink hair. But if you're going into a business environment, what image does that going to evoke for that person? And is that what you want them to believe about you? And if that is, that's absolutely fine. So make sure you know your audience, make sure you know who you're communicating to, and try and understand how to communicate with them in their language.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tracey. That was so informative, really interesting, especially the parts about looking at different types of communication, because, there was, a few food for thought with me in terms of, especially with clothing. I remember being a senior manager and not really being in the senior manager clothing. So it totally made me think about, It
does make a difference how people perceive you.
Yeah, exactly. So, Tracey, have you got any freebies or anything for our listeners?
So, there's always a freebie. I always like to offer people a free session, just to come and online or on telephone, just to come and have a chat and see how I work, what I do, and whether or not what I do and how I work is good for them. So I'm offering that to any one of your listeners who wants to get into contact and take me up on the free coaching session.
Brilliant. Great. And Tracey, where can people find you? What's your website, social media? So
go and check out the website. It's new. It's only been launched this week. It's all very exciting. So my website is www.Tracey Baum Coaching, and that's all one word together. And Tracey has an E in it, and Baum is Bravo Alpha Uniform Mike. Coaching.co.uk. My email is info@traceybaumcoaching.co.uk, and my social media of choice is Facebook and LinkedIn, and that's www.facebook.com/Tracey B Coaching, and my LinkedIn is www.linkedin.com/in/Tracey Baum.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Terms and conditions are at the bottom, and please make sure the bill power has read them all.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so thank you, Tracey, for being on. It's been really amazing, and it's really going to be food for thought for our listeners. So, guys, that's the end of the show today. Jackie Grant, your health and lifestyle advocate, granting you better health and fitness.